Welcome to Texas Platinum, the last of the real water cooler talk shows on YouTube. I'm Trevor, joined by both Matt Myers and Matt Madrid. My mic has some dust on it. It's been a minute. Literally, it does. Last time we talked to you guys, I think was in January for the Ohio State game. So it's been a minute, and we're back for the season, ready to break down the Ohio State game, Clash of the Titans here in a week. And also just kind of go over what we're thinking for the season ahead. Before we get too far into it, though, we're going to say like, comment, subscribe. I don't, honestly, that may be the last time I ever say it because it's kind of a known thing by now. And the people that watch this channel, I feel, are kind of lifers to us more so than newbies. But if you're an Ohio State fan checking us out, doesn't hurt to drop a like, comment, or subscription. Means a lot to us. Or a new Texas fan. I know there's a few of those with the arch hype going on. So I'm going to hand it off to Matt Madrid. This show is going to be kind of a opening, looking at the season ahead, giving our thoughts on things. We're going to do predictions at the end. And then, of course, we'll talk about Ohio State. So we'll have time codes in the description, so if you want to skip around, hop ahead, get to Ohio State, rather than hearing about our season thoughts, feel free to do so. But Madrid, give us your kind of your opening thoughts on the season. Where are we headed? What are you looking at?
So I feel like if we take a step back real quick here, I feel like we've been knocking on the door for a little too long now. Our team right now reminds us of Georgia, like, oh man, I'm getting old now, but like 2019, 2020, around that area where you're starting to feel like team's good, right? They're making it deep, they're making their playoff runs, but they're not quite getting over that hump, right? And it sounds, I was literally thinking this the other day. It sounds very spoiled to even be thinking like that, because there was a time where the idea of, being a true contender year in and year out was was a far off goal. But here we are, deep in the Sark era. He talks, he's been doing a lot of interviews during this offseason. He's coming back to the same themes every single time. He really feels like this is truly his guys, right? I know every year I think we start with, we're gaining more of the Sark culture, we're gaining more of the Sark system and the way of doing things. But truly, this is the first year. I don't think I think COVID's. I don't think we have a lot of those. I think that's over for most people. It's like one or two people in the whole league, in all of college football that have are still remnants of that, right? There's no Vernon Broughtons, there's no Alfred Collins, there's no guys that are we're trying to turn around, right? Everyone that's going to be playing for us are guys that we develop and we recruited from day one, and I think that's a very important thing, especially in the eyes of trying to get to that next step, right? We don't have to focus on establishing culture anymore. And one way, I don't know if people are as locked in as we seem to be sometimes, is you watch a lot of the interviews from especially on media day or even after the practices that you see from some of the players, right? And I remember Colin Simmons being a little cocky young man when he first arrived here, right? It's not too long ago, right? But he had a real young man swagger about him now, and the thing is, the first thing they ask him is, how do you see the defense forming out? How do you guys see, how do you see it? What's your strengths and all that? First thing he says is he gives a compliment to Ethan Burke, and he's just, his pass rush moves are crazy. He's looking great out there. That's not something I think most players would open up an open-ended question with. So to see something like that, is very special, right? And then another one, right? Jelani McDonald has had an interview And it was like, how are you approaching your game this year? Another guy I'm super excited about seeing the growth in, right? He's an athletic specimen, right? He goes, the way that Jade Barron and Andrew Makuba approached the game, it was like a job for them. Like it was, they were locked in. They were serious about every step, every day of the week, about their preparation, and that's something he or I, in quoting him, is trying to emulate. Right? I just don't remember a lot of players talking like that, even in the early Sark days, or even last year, to be quite honest. So at least going into the season. So we're knocking on the door, and I think we're ready, and I think we have the pieces and the infrastructure, to at least make it to the same place we already have, but at least make it to the big one. So yeah, those are my opening thoughts.
Yeah, Madrid, those are amazing points. I think you mentioned Sark's been saying a lot of good things about the culture, and you see it with the players. It's kind of like they're just saying the same things that Sark's saying. It's being like lived every day by these new young players. That's all they know. They're born into the new system of just winning and winning, going 11-0 on the road in our last 11 road games, and just it's very Bama, Georgia like in the early stages, which is undeniable. Are we Alabama right now? No, of course not. But it's the trajectory is very similar to how it was for those programs in the same time period when they started their dynasty. Um, are we being overhyped? Possibly, yes, I would say. However, I look around the landscape of college football, in terms of competing for a national championship this year, and I'm not completely sold that this team's going to be better than the 24 team. I think it very well could be. I'm just looking around, and I don't know who I would pick over Texas. Um, if you have to gun to your head, choose a national champion, I think Texas is one of the first teams you're going to list off. And really, the reason I'm very high on this team more and more as we get closer to game one is Sark is not hedging. He's a very genuine guy. Year one, his press conferences, he would tell you that we're not very good. We're not a finished product. Um, and then as we've gotten better, his rhetoric, his tone's changed a lot. And going into this new season with this whole new cast of young players, I figured he'd kind of temper expectations, but he's not really doing that. He's not hyping us up necessarily, but he's definitely sounds like the standard and the expectations are to win a national championship, to play in Miami in that final game of the national championship in mid-January. So that's very encouraging. And then you just look at our defense, man. I think we have a chance to be the best defense in the country this year. I think that's a reasonable goal for us to strive for when you look at Colin Simmons, Anthony Hill, Michael Taff. Jelani McDonald's going to be a superstar. Gilbo's back. Muhammad Lafau's the steady leader who's a really good player. Sound linebacker Ethan Burke. And then all these great transfers we got, or at least good enough, serviceable interior defensive linemen to help just strengthen that defense so we can keep, just dominating in the trenches like we have been the last 2 years. It's just when you have a good defense, you're going to have a chance. And then the belief is that Arch Manning is going to make us a little bit better, be an upgraded quarterback, which I personally believe. We've always talked about Arch versus Quinn over the past 2 years, and now there's no more talking about it. It's time to see Arch. So I'm real excited, man. It's kind of fun because this year to me is kind of like house money in a way because I really think the 26 team's going to be even better than this team because this team's going to be young. Uh, that doesn't mean we can't win a national championship. That doesn't mean the title window is not open. It's open, but I feel like this will be found money if we go and beat Ohio State and just roll back into the SEC championship. So I'm excited, man. It's so nice having Sark and just, we're very grateful because it wasn't long ago, like Madrid said, when it was Herman and Charlie Strong.
Yeah, I mean, we've come a massive long way. The funniest thing for me nowadays is we get like a top signing class and it's littered with talent, like, offensively, just Jamie French, Michael Terry. And then you go into spring ball and you barely really hear about them. And that's not because they're not like five-star wide receivers. It's because we finally have developed a team that is so loaded and stacked that we're not in a position to where like we need to just call on freshmen all the time, and freshmen can actually go and develop and occasionally pop into games and maybe play against, Sam Houston or San Jose or UTEP. Like we'll see them there. But, going into the Ohio State game, I don't know, maybe we'll see Jamie French or, Kalik Lockett for a few snaps, but like it's not like Sark's first year where Xavier Worthy was like our offense. It's pretty impressive. And that's all around the board. That's on defense. That's everywhere. Quarterback, I mean, Arch Manning, this is his third year in the program, and now he's getting to start. Like, if you told that to a Texas fan, like in Charlie Strong or Tom Herman era, that we had a Manning on a roster that didn't start for 3 years, you'd be like, oh, he must really suck. But no, like that's just nothing but praise to Sark and the program that he's built, the talent he's recruited, both through the portal and through development. I mean, it's super exciting, and just seeing how confident, like I've never seen Sark this confident in a team before. I know last year we said that, but this year in particular, I think he was literally asked point blank, like, how are you feeling about your team and something like that, and said something along the lines of like, I have no concerns outside of like offensive line. He's like, there's like eight players that I feel good about, which is more than five. So that I think most coaches in the country would be happy with that. So I mean, yeah, like you said, Myers, I mean, when you look at all these other top 5, 10 teams in the country, Texas is, I think, clearly from a roster standpoint on top with everyone else. You got Ohio State and Georgia as very stacked rosters. I would say right up there with Texas. Maybe Penn State you could throw in there. But when you look as a team in totality, I really for me the big thing is the quarterback. And let's talk about Arch Manning, because I think if you have an elite quarterback coupled with elite talent, that's really when you have a winner. Last year we had a great defense, great all around team. Quinn was, I'd say, very good. And no offense to Quinn, and I feel like the guy's going to be catching strays for the rest of the season. But he wasn't a championship level quarterback. We didn't win the SEC title game, and I'm not putting all the blame on Quinn, but he wasn't good enough. He wasn't good enough against Ohio State at the end of the day. Or even really throughout the season. Our offense really didn't carry our team, our defense did. And even though Arch has only started 2 games, everyone's talking about that and how inexperienced he is as a quarterback. When you look at his ceiling and what he could be capable of, coupled with the talent that's around him and the years of development that he's had, it's kind of hard not to expect him to just completely go off. I'm sure there'll be some ups and downs and maybe a few games that aren't that great, but I can't personally, I just don't see a world where he is on the same level or less than Quinn Ewers. And I think that the roster around him as a totality is a little bit better than last year. Maybe not offensive and defensive line, and we'll get into that too, but yeah. What are y'all's thoughts on Arch? Let's rip the seal off. Arch
Manning. I think you mentioned a little earlier that when you stack up rosters across the country, right? Or you could put ours near the top. And honestly, I'll hear arguments for Penn State's bringing back a lot of their same guys. Ohio State's always up there. They're really good at development themselves. Who am I missing? Georgia. Georgia's upgrading the offensive line as well. So they know how to win football games that way as well. But regardless of that, right? You have these interchangeable rosters. Number one, maybe Texas, maybe it's Penn State, maybe it's Georgia, maybe it's Ohio State. Only us, only Horns have the opportunity to have the best quarterback in the nation. Like we have that X factor that could come to fruition, right? And like you said, you had that combined with that type of roster talent and depth. It's almost like it's a grindhouse, man. Like it's a buzzsaw. You kind of take care of business everywhere you go. I think for what it's worth, if this O line that we had right now, I have faith in it, right? Because I have faith in our coaches, and in our O line coach. But if it was Quinn behind that line, I'd be a little shaky, right?
Yeah.
We lost Kojo, you know what I mean? I think I'm saying his name right. That was a guy for us. That was a guy that was going to be, at least stemming the tide, while Brandon Baker's in the incubator, getting the reps that he needs, right? Or maybe Baker takes his spot outright, right? Regardless, there was some security there at one of the tackle spots. We know Gooseby is what he is. He's a good player for us, but we're going to start, I mean, Kelvin Banks started as a freshman, right? But that was more out of necessity. And I think we all agree that we are not in the business of starting freshmen as much as if we don't have to, unless they're really that good. So, Baker, was on somewhat near the level of Banks. So you kind of hope that it kind of works out there too. Regardless, what I'm getting at is Arch makes me feel a little bit better because he, even if the O line play isn't, I think it's gonna be good. It may not be elite. Like I thought last year was close to elite just because of the type of experience and dogs we had on there outside of kind of DJ Campbell's penalties, right? Um, uh, so I think Arch can be that X factor to at least alleviate some pressure, right? Or at the very least, be able to navigate the pocket just a little bit better than what Quinn could, right? Quinn felt something on the edge, man. You'd have to really beg for him not to think about falling down, right, and protecting his body. I love my boy, but there was some, that was very frustrating parts of his game right there. And like you said, he's going to be catching strays this season. Arch is going to do something with his feet, and there's going to be a million tweets about how Quinn couldn't do that. Like Quinn couldn't rush for that first down, for not even a first down, like 15 yards, 20-yard gains with his feet, right? That's not something Quinn was notably good at. So I do think that Arch being the X factor that he is or can be, will kind of mask a lot of things on the O line. But the best thing that came out of this offseason is we got our next the roommates story. Him and Parker Livingstone share a bunk together or a dorm room together, or whatever you may be. But we got our next Shipley McCoy storyline. Like, did you know they were roommates? That's crazy. So
they're probably sharing a mansion together. It's the NIL.
Yeah, I was about to say, right?
They're not
like
doing
biggest,
bunk beds.
right? In my mind, but I think it's awesome that like in my mind when I was little, I was like, oh my god, Colt McCoy and Shipley are like
who's got top bunk
in a barracks with each other, bro. I don't know. I think it works better for the narrative rather than two young guys living in like a penthouse apartment or something like that, right? But regardless, he's got the weapons at his disposal. Wingo, that guy's a man. Every time you hear about each scrimmage, at least in the early scrimmages, it'd be like defense had a day, and then offense kind of sputtered out of the gate, except for like Wingo like dominating every time he touched the ball. So I have a great feeling that guy is going to be a top draft pick very soon. That guy is not. If he has a good season this year, he's not staying 4 years. That guy's going to be gone. He's just too good. And then DeAndre Moore is the best, slot security blanket in the league, in my opinion. and those two right there are more than enough. And then the plethora of guys like French and Livingstone backing up is something that I wish Quinn had, but I'm more than happy that Arch has for right now.
Yeah, no, I'm my biggest concern really, aside from the offensive line this offseason, was wide receiver room. And I feel like as we've gotten closer to the season, we've heard the things about Wingo and we've seen him, in clips here and there. And then you hear about Livingston coming on. DeAndre Moore, of course, is a steady, reliable guy that will make big time catches in big time games. And then, of course, the young guys, all the five stars we brought in. I think we're going to be very good there. Emmett Mosley was brought in too from Stanford. He's the guy I expected to contribute. He's been banged up though, but he's a guy that Sark likes a lot. He put up great numbers as a freshman in Stanford. And Sark said great things about the receiver room, better than I expected him to say. He didn't really attack the portal like I thought he would. Um, so I think it's going to be very good. And I think the most important piece of all this is Jack Endry. He's a tight end, transferred from Cal. He's going to put up some numbers. I mean, we kind of have a little baby tight end U pipeline forming with Jatavion and then go to Gunnar Helm. And it's Endry's guy. He's going to put up some big numbers. If you're into college football fantasy, I know Madrid and I are. He might be a guy to look at, but he's just a very just natural receiver. He's a big guy, super fast. I don't know how he is in terms of blocking, but I know he's got very strong hands and he catches contested passes all the time. He had like some crazy stat, like 9 of 12 contested catches he caught, like or passes he caught last year, which is really good. So he's going to be a guy that'll be, a nice safety blanket for Arch. Um, Early on and I guess throughout the whole season. But yeah, I think Arch is a major upgrade over Quinn. I haven't been shy about saying that. I appreciate what Quinn did for us, but I think we're going to see Arch open up this entire Sark playbook. A lot more under center. We'll be able to run a quarterback sneak when we need to now to get a yard. We could also, do big old drop back, 7 yard drop back, comeback routes. The whole playbook's going to be open. And I'm excited to see how our offense looks. We got Wisner back, who's, quietly the leading returner in the SEC in rushing yards. And then Baxter. Baxter's apparently turning heads, turning Sark's head. He's way ahead of progress, way ahead of schedule in terms of his recovery. He's expected to contribute now early, maybe at Ohio State is like 1A, 1B. So if that can come to fruition, combined with the O line that I've always believed is going to be a better run blocking O line when you throw in Hudson, Campbell, and Nito and Gooseby as well, I think we're going to have a steady run game, especially with Arch, his ability to run the ball. So I think it's just everything's going to be opened up a little bit better on the offense. Do we have an Xavier Worthy type athlete? I wish we did. I don't think we have one in the receiver room. Wingo is very explosive, but I kind of wish we had that quick twitch, just jet sweep guy. But I know Wingo can house a lot of short plays too. So overall, I'm very excited about the offense, but I think it may take some time. And don't freak out if we don't put up crazy points against Ohio State. But I think by the time we play Florida and OU, we'll be humming.
Yeah. Final team thoughts for me. Defense, last year, I think surprised us with how good they were and how much they carried this team. I think they're gonna be even better. And that's certainly not a hot take. The amount of talent that we were able to retain, I know on the defensive line, we got a few new people, um, or younger people rather, that are going to be getting starts here. But I mean, our edge position is pretty darn elite, with Colin Simmons. And I know that Anthony Hill, will kind of be all over, but I'm sure he's going to be rushing the passer as well. Ethan Burke,
Trey
Colin
Moore still
Bassett,
there.
Trey Moore.
Trey
I was
Yeah,
about to say
Trey
we
Moore.
have
No one's
this.
talking about him,
Matt
but
Spence from Arkansas. Yeah.
No, we have the scary players, bro. In in college football, like I remember in the 2010s, man. You think about all those great Bama defenders, right? And you're like, man, what's it take to get one of those guys? You know what I mean? To have
yeah.
one of those guys that's like, not like good, but like feared. You know what I mean? Like
hmm
handshaking, fear, like they're coming.
Colin Simmons,
So
I think
yeah,
can be that
exactly.
guy. And then honestly, I think our DBs might be the best
You're
unit.
dirty.
They're
They're
good.
dirty.
Gilbo, Michael Taff, Derek Williams, Malik Muhammad, Jelani
Malik
McDonald. I
Muhammad
mean,
with the pay raise, this with the holdout pay raise. Great move. Great move.
that might be our strongest unit. And I know no one's saying that, but at least that's how I feel when I look at the depth chart there. I'm just like, damn.
And we got dudes behind them that are like
Right.
popping off, like Warren Robinson, Kobe Black played a lot of. He's a huge five-star corner. Played a lot of big
Hmm.
snaps last year. There's others. Phil Sami's coming on late. It's just like you said, Trevor. Kate Phillips might
Jonah
be.
Williams.
There's just so many just five-star guys that are being developed behind the scene. It's just plug and play. It's very Bama-esque. It's
Yeah.
very exciting.
Hmm.
It's impressive. Last thing, because this was a big deal last year. This may have been one of our Achilles heels was special teams. We got a new kicker. We got a new punter. They're both
Bro,
transfers, and they both are on the watch list for their
bro.
positions. So I'm praying to God that we have. I don't even need them to be great. I just need a level
Dude,
of consistency that is like I know that they aren't for sure going to miss the kick.
that was a glaringly bad unit
We
last year.
weren't we even if Quinn
Like
and
bad.
again going back to Quinn, not calling him out for being the reason why we didn't ultimately move on, but even if Quinn was
Yeah,
better, I don't think we would have won the national championship with the kicking game that we had, or kicking and
I
punting.
believe that.
Special teams, I think, would have nearly we should have cost. Um, it'll be good to have some fresh faces in there. And we got to learn their names. Shipley, Mason Shipley, and Jack Bester. gotta
No, honestly,
gotta. But
I didn't know his name was Boomeister.
I'm surprised Will Stone isn't contributing.
I guess
kickoffs.
he guy just want, yeah, they just want him kicking the ball off, I guess. Which I never understood. I always thought that's the same guy that does both, but I guess I don't know. What do I know? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One thing, one player I want to just highlight real quick, just for, I think he was on Prime Portal Watch this past offseason is Colton Vasek. His recruitment was really, flip floppy, and we ended up winning on that one. And I think he kind of probably felt like he got buried just with the amount of talent at edge right now. And I've been hearing nothing but good things. He's gotten some run with the ones this past this camp. So I don't know if he's going to dominate, but I do like to see what he's going to do behind Burke, and he might be a nice fill-in rotation guy that's going to become Ethan Burke of 2 years ago, right? So I really hope we see that guy pop off. Also, he looked really cool in a Westlake uniform. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's got that Bosa build, man. And
Yeah,
whenever
he
he's
does.
healthy and he's playing, he's like a problem. He's always making
Yeah,
highlight plays. He's healthy
yeah.
right now, so if he's I love that shout out.
All right, so now we're going to move on to talk about the big game of the college football season, potentially, of week one. Texas goes to Columbus to take on Ohio State. What could have and potentially should have been a one versus two matchup would have been fun, but ultimately those rankings don't really matter for week one. Um, Big game and two teams that kind of see mirror images in each other. Myers, let's hear your opening thoughts on Texas versus Ohio State.
Yeah, it's as big as it gets. It's actually funny. It's very similar to the '05, '06 Texas Ohio State
Yeah.
games. We won the Natty in '05. They won it in 2024. And then we opened, not second week of the season, we played them again. It was one versus two at the time, and they had Troy Smith, I believe, and he
Mhm.
won the Heisman. They won the Natty that year. So it's kind of like this is hopefully our get back game on our way to the national championship. That's the goal. But two freshman quarterbacks, not a freshman. Arch is not a freshman. Julian Sayin is going to get his first start. They just announced he's a five-star guy, transferred from Bama. Looks like a little kid out there, but I'm sure he can sling it. I'm glad it's his first start. I'm glad that we have Colin Simmons and all of our defense to introduce him to big time football. But he can sling it, and he's got the best receiver core in the country to throw it to. So they have a newish O line, very newish O line, but I think their O line will be solid. I think our claim to fame this game is just they're replacing a coordinator on both sides of the ball. Matt Patricia takes over the defense, and Brian Hartline takes over the play calling and the offensive coordinator role. Who in the past called plays and wasn't great at it, and he kind of got ran off. Not really ran off because he's always been there. He's a great recruiter, great receiver coach. But my point is, he's suspect in play calling from what little we've seen. So I think that could present some advantages for Texas. When it's a high pressure situation, third and long, and you backed up in their territory. I think he might hopefully flinch a little bit, and then we let PK and our defense go to work. Um, but yeah, it's a tough game. I mean, Jeremiah Smith, Caleb Downs, of course, everyone talks about two best players in football. We did well against Jeremiah Smith last time, but I expect him to do a little bit better this game, of course. They got other guys, Brandon Ennis, uh, Carnell Tate, great core. I don't know who the receivers are. James Peoples, I believe, is going to be their starting running back, is what I meant to say. And defensively, Sonny Styles still there at linebacker. A new D line, so I do think we can run the ball on them a little bit, um, which would be huge. I think whoever runs the ball better will probably be in a better spot to win the game. But very similar teams, uh, national championship odds, Heisman odds, and a lot of the players, a lot of future NFL players. It's in the horseshoe. A big noon. It's Lee Corso's last game, which like makes me so sad because he's kind of one of the guys that got me into college football as a baby. So it's gonna be awesome, dude. It's as big as it gets. Ohio State versus Texas, man, and I really want this one because I was there in the Cotton Bowl last year, and that was just so painful. And Ohio State fans are so graceful in victory. So it's hopefully we get them back this year.
Madrid, what do you think?
Yeah, first off, you mentioned Lee Corso. Um, Look, man, I'm not a young man anymore. I have a job and I pay bills and I pay taxes. I think, you can think about all the fond memories with Corso, and there's a million, right? It's hard to pick one. But for me, I think what I'm going to remember the most is just being like, shit, like from like my conscious age of watching football to like now, maybe. So whatever, how many years that is of like, being like, tomorrow's college, college game, college football tomorrow. Hell yeah, right. I'm gonna get up early and I'm gonna throw on game day, bro. I'll throw it on, but my ass is like still asleep, and then like just coming in and out of consciousness, and like just it's Lee Corso saying something, and just like, hey, what? And like that's gonna be gone now, and I don't know. I think that that's just the sign of the times. Who knows? Or ESPN is hit and miss with some of its anchors, right? So we'll see what happens. But I will miss those memories of just being half awake and hearing Lee Corso shouting on my screen. But when it comes to the game, Myers hitting on the head. They're replacing a lot of core parts from that national championship team, right? I'm not the biggest fan of Matt Patricia, Brian Hartline. I mean, I liked him in the NFL, so maybe he is something, right? But we'll see what they're able to implement. They're playing with house money with the car or with the players they inherited, so maybe it's not as hard as we think to implement those things. But I do kind of feel like this game is similar to the Michigan game last year. National champs off of first game back. You know, first a big game back from the national championship. Maybe there's a little bit of a hangover there. We're going to the Midwest. I feel like I remember the lead up game all the way from when the hype started for that game, and everything was about you're not gonna go to Michigan's house and push them over, and then we did what we did to them, right? We almost made it look seamless. There's one thing I know about Sark is he's been prepping for this game since the end of last season. So if I know which team is going to look more fresh and more ready to go, it's going to be ours. I truly believe that. I don't think there's a lot of warm up with Sark's teams. They hit the ground running, right? Not everything's going to be perfect, right? But I do think we experienced less hiccups in the beginning of the year, at least his last 2 years, I feel, when things really got rolling. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see, them hiccup more than we do. Maybe you can tell how I'm leaning with predictions in this game, but uh, I see a lot of similarities. Our quarterback is, I mean, I know why you said freshman, Matt, two freshmen starting because we know we've seen Arch play, but we really haven't seen Arch play. Like this will be a big, it's not his debut start, but it is his debut in a pretty big, spot, right? So we'll see if he's up to the challenge. But Julian saying, I liked him. I mean, all the talks from the other Texas football sources were like, if we didn't have Arch, it was Sayin or Raiola that would probably be starting this game, right? So it just goes to show what type of player he is. But first start versus Colin Simmons and a third year Anthony Hill looking to get paid is something that I'm looking forward to, and I think it's advantage. It's an advantage that favors the defense, our defense, and especially in a big game and early in the season too, when they're still figuring things out. I mean, Jeremiah Smith, don't get me wrong, I think he'll get his. He's a stud in his own, but I think we have the better foundation when it comes to games like this. So those are just 4 predictions, my thoughts.
Yeah, I think Texas goes into this game pretty confident, and I know Ohio State does too because they do have a hell of a roster, and I'm not discounting the talent that they have, the people that they do return, and the fact that saying it isn't a slouch. I mean, he wouldn't be a 5-star if he wasn't at least marginally pretty good. Um, Granted, first start. There's a lot of firsts for Ohio State going into this game. I mean, first start for San, a lot of new players, fresh faces, new offensive and defensive coordinators is huge, and first game of the season for all of that. That's just a lot of newness and a lot of you know dust that may be on that team at the moment. Um, I could see this team getting much better as the season goes on and gels and everything, but going up against a defense like Texas, especially with their offensive line still figuring things out. And granted, it's the same for us. I mean, like I said at the beginning, and like Myers has said, these teams really do mirror each other in terms of um, new starting quarterback, a lot of talent, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And Ohio State has their great, Jeremiah Smith receiver. Texas with Wingo, I guess, but Wingo definitely isn't as proven as Smith is. But yeah, I mean, when you just look at those big factors, it really doesn't favor very well for Ohio State's offense. I mean, what quarterback wants to start their career, their first start of their career against this Texas defense? I don't think anyone would, and I don't think that's necessarily a good thing in favor for them. I think the big thing that's honestly keeping this game close is that it's at Ohio State. I think if this was at Texas, um, people wouldn't even give Ohio State a chance, to be honest. So I think the home field advantage helps them, and it should. Um, that noon game, I think, helps Texas a bit. I know that was originally on, and then at one point it looked like, oh, they could potentially move it to a night game. And Texas is like, no, let's not do that. And I don't think that's being weak. I think that's being smart, for Texas if they had their voice in the say. I don't really know how that went down, but I at least heard rumblings of that happening. So I don't know. I think Texas goes in very confident. Arch, first road start for him. I know everyone keeps talking about like, oh, he's barely played, he's barely played. He's got a lot of snap. I mean, not a lot, but he's got a fair number of snaps. And to compare him to Saiyan and being like, oh, they're on the same field, they're not. I mean, Arch's development is head and shoulders beyond what Saiyan has gotten. I think at least. I mean, I don't know for sure, but from what I can tell, the amount of reps and games that Arch has been in. I mean, he's been in games. He may have not started necessarily, but he played meaningful snaps against Texas A&M, Georgia in the SEC, championship game. I mean, he pretty much played in every game in some capacity last season for Texas, even if he wasn't starting. And then he did get a few starts, or played decent, meaningful snaps against early teams when Quinn was dealing with that injury at the beginning of the season. So, I think that he has the clear advantage in terms of familiarity with I mean, obviously familiarity with his offense compared to Sand, who now has a new offense, new playbook to learn. I mean, I'm sure it won't be radically different than what Ohio State always has done, but still, I mean, like I said, there's just a lot of newness with the Ohio State team that while that exists for Texas, that I can't say like for certain that like Texas won't have their own set of issues being the first game of the season and some new faces on the offensive and defensive lines. Um, I think the advantage definitely leans in Texas's favor.
I feel like every Longhorn fan is very, they may not say it, but they're very quietly confident in this game. And this is just a spot that Sark's earned our trust in, going on the road, winning at Tuscaloosa, winning at the Big House, and then winning in Kyle Field as well. We're very good on the road, 11-0, dating back to 2022. And then also getting them early in the year, it's ideal. Like this is when you want to play Ohio State, and you could say the same about us. This is when you want to play Texas. But like Trevor said, Arch, he's about as seasoned as you can be for making your first time start in a spot like this because he's played in the SEC championship. He played at Kyle Field, scored a big touchdown for us, and he's started a couple of games, one in the SEC. Third-year quarterback in the system. So I think a lot of the confidence also comes from us having confidence in Arch to be able to, just drive the bus. Because we have that defense, I think Arch will be less mistake prone than Sayan in this spot, which is huge. And I trust our defense to make stops down the stretch more so than Ohio State's defense will. I think Colin Simmons has a big game. I think our front seven just kind of ends up controlling the second half, and I think it'll be low scoring, but I just trust Sark in this spot. I think the revenge factor is also real, man. The last thing our players remember was walking off that field, watching Ohio State celebrate. And I think we like being on the road. And yeah, I'm going to take Texas to win. Low scoring. I have 27-20 is what I wrote down. Um, I like what Trevor said. If Texas was at home, no one would be giving Ohio State a shot. And maybe we're getting overhyped. Maybe of course, we're biased, but I think Trevor's onto something there. I think the home field is going to help Ohio State here and keep it a close game. But I think Texas is the better team as of week one, and I think Sark is ready for this matchup, and he wants to get back at Ohio State. So give me the Horns by 7.
Me or you?
Yeah, I'll take it real quick. Yeah, I was alluding to it. I just like the preparation we get for these. I remember when we first scheduled Michigan and Ohio State years ago, being like, "There's no way we're gonna be ready for that." Like early week, like there's early in the season, like there's just no way. The team I know right now, not a chance. But a lot's changed since then, and I actually am a complete 180 on that opinion now. I think you give Sark a lot of time, which is especially with these, early big games, you basically get the whole offseason to prepare for it. I just think that's an advantage in itself. So I do have full faith that we will be ready to go. I think Arch knows this system pretty well, and they're probably holding off about how much he probably does understand it. You know what I mean? He was born in it. You know what I mean? So I do think he might surprise us more than we think. He's been in big moments. Sarkis did a great job making sure he got the reps. I mean, even in the glimpses he would play in the A&M game, right? He just got a feel for it, right? That's great. That's that right there. Even those little things, like, he's not going to be afraid. He has the best support system in the world. So I just really do think we're going to be way more prepared than them, and I do think that we will, do our classic jump out to an early lead and then try to, protect it and build upon it as they try to claw their way back. I truly believe that's how the game going to go. So I have it just above Myers. Myers, you said 27-20, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got his 31-20, and I do think
Wow.
we are able to score, and I do think that I know we didn't even talk about our backs like Trey Wisner, Baxter, Gibson, Clark's. We've been hearing great news about Clark. We didn't even touch on him. I just do think any kind of pressure that the immediate pressure that Arch feels are going to be taken. That load's going to be taken off his back by those guys. They're just as good as as the past year. So give me 31-20 Horns.
Yeah, excellent point about the running backs. I was actually going to mention that before I gave my score. Um, I think that this game will, in large part, both teams are going to lean on the running game with fresh quarterbacks. And I mean, that's very much in the DNA of both Ohio State and Texas to have a generous running game to complement the passing game. They're not one-dimensional teams by any stretch. Um, and I think I like our running game a little bit more than Ohio State. In fact, I do, at least for the time being. Um, getting Baxter back, I think, is huge. That's a piece that we were missing so badly last season. We didn't have that big bruising back, a guy that can get us tough yards. That's why Arch became that person for us, just because we didn't have that with our running game. And Trey Wisner is great for what he does, but he's not quite the all-around back that Baxter is. And I think having him coupled with, like you said, with Clark and Gibson, um, is going to, provide a really good running game for us. And I think that's going to be a big part of the game. And I'm curious to see how our defensive seven holds up against running game compared to um, on the opposite side for their defensive seven against us. Um, I know, Myers, you made a very interesting point about how you feel confident about our running game in terms of our line, that our line is probably a bit stronger given the new players in it at run blocking as opposed to pass blocking. So I'm curious to see how that transpires and how much water that holds. And kind of the interesting thing, kind of last final thoughts before I give my score, is this Texas offense is going to look the same, but very different with Arch Manning at quarterback. A lot more shots down the field. Arch and in the pocket is a lot stronger than Quinn was. Quinn would kind of just take sacks or fall down when he felt pressure. Arch is not that way. He spins and maneuvers and stays in the pocket, isn't afraid to get hit in order to make the big throw. You just look at that. You look at his film and you see that his pocket presence is beyond impressive, especially at the age that he's at. And I can only imagine that it's about to get better. And I think that's another kind of advantage in terms of Texas is even if our offensive line isn't up to par that it would need to be for an Ohio State team, I think Arch, just by everything that we've seen in previous games, gives us a bit of an advantage in that, okay, well, at least he can move around a bit and he's got a very reassuring presence in the pocket to be able to still deliver balls, even if he's facing a lot of pressure. So overall, I like many Texas fans, I'm feeling very confident about this game. I have us winning 24-14, so not necessarily going off, not big fireworks. In fact, I have us scoring the least amount of points of the three of us, which kind of surprises me. But because I do believe that Ohio State does have a great defense, and I don't think that we're going to be firing on all cylinders just yet for game one. But I do believe in our defense tremendously. And I could see us holding Ohio State very easily under 20 points. I mean, all of us having them score, 20 at the max. For me, I have them under 20. Um, so really just kind of a dominant game where Texas wins by double digits. Not massive win, but kind of in the same way Texas beat Alabama years ago. And Michigan was definitely a bit more of a beatdown than than Alabama was, or than what I would expect from this game, but just in a very controlling manner, not necessarily fireworks bombs away, but just a very calm, controlled win against Ohio State. So that's what I got.
I like it. Yeah, I think our defense is the best unit on the field. So I think just trusting in that, and then we have a better quarterback, I would say. So I like it. Hopefully, I don't want to undersell Ohio State because they're obviously really good. They can win the Natty this year, but I think we're just a little bit better.
Yeah, and I don't think any of us are. I mean, Madrid had the most aggressive spread, but even then, it's still under 2 touchdowns. So I think we're still giving Ohio State his props. Just the big thing is the amount of change that they're going under, and the fact that it's game one, I think presents a bit more of an advantage for Texas.
Yeah, Quinn strays. They're going to be flying if we win. Sorry, Quinn. Quinn cost us a Natty. We should have played ours last year. He's
I
coming.
and this is to all you Texas fans out there. We got to enjoy we got to enjoy this. If Texas wins and if Arch looks anything as advertised, we got to ride, just enjoy the season. Like this, we've waited so long for a quarterback and again, he hasn't played yet, so I could be totally just talking out my ass here. But if he's as advertised, I think that this Arch Manning hype and, if it remotely cashes in, Texas fans just gotta live in the moment, gotta live in the season and just soak it all in because you don't have a talent like this come through the doors every now and again, especially with the name to marry with it and the team to go along with it. Um, I think that this can be a very special season for Texas, which dovetails us into season predictions. We're going to give win-loss predictions on the Texas season, and then uh, we'll mention our Heisman prediction as well as national championship prediction. So, Madrid, how about you? What do you think season
For the
record?
season, I mean, I do feel, I mean, going undefeated, I think I say this every year. It's just like the hardest thing to do. Um, and I do feel like I had this weird feeling that we just can't beat Georgia for some reason. It's really bothering me. But I don't know. If it's gonna be any year, it's gonna be this year. At least I think. I don't know. Their O line, I've been hearing good things about it. And that was supposedly maybe a weakness this past few years, but um, weakness in quotes, right? But if they're gonna shore that up, I feel like they still beat us here. I am worried a little bit about one of our rivalry games, more so the OU one, just because if they figure out a little bit, they have a really good defense. I think I'll never hold a bad defense against, or I'll never think that Venables has a bad defense. It's always going to be the top end part of his offense. But they're getting some kind of dark horse SEC appearance rumbling. So we'll see. I still have this going 11-1, and the loss I go back and forth between either OU, Georgia, or Florida. I feel like those are the obvious ones. So give me 11-1, loss to OU.
Oh,
I
you.
like it.
Oh, that'd be
I was
sad.
I was teetering between 10-2 and 11-1, and just like you, Georgia and OU were my suspected losses. I just think OU's in such a now or never year, and they're pretty much going all in. Venables, like it's Venables has to win this year, or he's pretty much gone. And they brought in Mateer, who's obviously an upgrade over whatever his name was, Jackson Arnold, and the defense will be steady. So it's an hour and every year. So I think you'll be good. But I have us at 11-1, and I'm going to put the loss in Athens to Georgia. I think it's just one of those things where, Kirby couldn't beat Saban for the longest time until he did. I think that's going to be our boogeyman for a while, and I think this is where you want to lose to him because I expect if we're going to go on this run to the Natty like we want to, you're going to see Georgia twice at least. So I think you lose this one, and I think Texas kind of coasting at that point. I think we're 10-0 heading into it, 9-0, and we pretty much have a playoff spot locked up. And Georgia may have already been in taking a loss and be in wounded animal mode. So 11-1, I think that's probably good enough to get you to the SEC championship, where you probably play Georgia or Bama. I'm not high on LSU, but give me 11-1, and I think Texas is definitely in the playoff and one of the favorites going into January.
I as well have Texas at 11-1. Um, with that loss being to Florida. I don't think crazy high of Florida, but I do know that the Swamp is a verified difficult place to play. Especially with Texas in town, I can just imagine that it's going to be a hornet's nest. And if Florida lives up to the hype that they're kind of getting, I think that that's going to be a very exciting game. Um, for some reason, for me, that game stands out. It just, even though it's not a trap game, and I do feel confident in Texas going into the Swamp, I'm just, there's always a game that great teams lose where it's like, you just shouldn't lose that game, you know? And that, that game is right off of three like non-con easy opponents leading into the Oklahoma game. And if Oklahoma lives up to the hype that they're getting now, I think there's a good shot of them coming in to Red River undefeated um, to play Texas. So I could just see us looking ahead and just having an off day in the Swamp and taking a loss there. But like you guys said, I think Oklahoma, Georgia, and Ohio State, even though we all have them winning, I think are the obvious trip up spots for Texans to take a loss. And I really don't want them to lose to Oklahoma or Georgia. Like, I mean, Oklahoma for us being the rival, and I want to, kind of assert that line of dominance against them because I feel like every year is back and forth, and it'd be nice to break that and go on a bit of a winning streak against Oklahoma. And then for Georgia, I we need to get over that hump. And it's at their place on the road, probably going to be a night game, probably going to be a top five matchup, and it's going to be electric. Um, but that's a game that I want to see Texas win. Um, not only just selfishly, but in terms of them as a team progressing. If they can win that game, then I think they can win any game, um, playoff and beyond. So I got us losing one game, slipping up against a team that they should beat um, in Florida. Um, let's do Heisman real quick and then national championship.
I'll keep it short and sweet. Cade Klubnik had Heisman numbers last year. He's got a cupcake schedule, so he's going to put up those numbers again. They'll be in the playoff. I think Cade Klubnik's the easy choice, safest bet.
Ditto. I also have Klubnik on there. Good guy.
I mean,
Good kid, and puts up good numbers and in a conference that I don't think is going to provide a ton of challenge for him. So I expect good numbers.
I expect him to take a step forward. I didn't really think about the schedule part of it. That might have a big part to do with it. I do feel like, I think we were talking a little earlier, that it does feel like a clean slate type of Heisman year. Everyone's there's no like finalist holdovers. At least I don't think so. I kind of think of some dark horses sometimes when it comes to Heisman. That's just the way that I tend to think. I feel like grabbing at the top of the odds is a little too easy sometimes.
Yeah.
My heart says I like Klubnik or like a Jeremiah Smith, but I would love to see at least a finalist with like Dante Moore or something like that from Oregon. I always thought highly of him, and he has been training underneath Gabriel and Nix, and I think Oregon's more than capable of sustaining that kind of a success again with the finalists. So Hart says Klubnik, but I really want to see Jeremiah Smith, maybe a defensive player. Trevor
Colin
noted
Simmons.
Colin Simmons, maybe. Maybe
It'd be
it'd be
Maybe.
tough.
He
No,
can
I'm just-
make it. He can make it to
He can
New
make
York.
it. Maybe a finalist.
If him,
But I think final answer. What?
I was gonna say if him and Arch both make it to New York, that would be pretty iconic.
That'd be crazy. I feel like I want to say Arch. I just haven't seen it, and it feels a little too easy to say.
Yeah.
But give me Jeremiah Smith. I'll go with the receiver here.
All right. Nice. All right. National championship, real quick. Myers.
I'm deciding between Georgia, Texas, and Penn State. I guarantee it'll be one of those teams. Um, Texas is the favorite in Vegas for a reason, I guess. Call me a homer. I've picked Texas this whole time. But give me Texas. Texas wins the national championship.
Oh,
Finally
calling
get
it
it
right
done.
here.
We've been busting that. We've been knocking on that door for long enough. Everyone has to do that. Michigan did it before they did it, before they won it. Georgia did it. Clemson did it. It takes time. Ohio State did it. So it's our turn, and I think we're ready for this. So give me Texas. Wins it all.
Madrid.
Okay. I really like the talent that Penn State brings back this year, and I really like the narrative of each Big Ten coach getting over the hump. Like, first Harbaugh being like, he can't do it, does it. Ryan Day, he can't do it, does it. James Franklin, maybe. It's a cool narrative. That's the really only reason I lean towards it. I do like. I'm a sucker for a Drew Alar a narrative as well. Maybe a sneaky Heisman too. But when they get late into the season, right? Anytime they run against the really high end teams, they just really try to play. They try to win the football game of like we're the underdog. We have to make sure the ball rolls our way. That's how we win. You know what I mean? Real slow, real defensive, which is not the worst thing in the world to play. It's good football. But because of that, I do think they get far. But I do think I'm smelling a Georgia return. So give me Georgia.
Georgia, Penn State.
Yeah, something like that. They'll at least play each other. Penn State will run into one of the dogs, and it's just gonna be damn. They just don't got it again. As much as they return.
All right. I have Clemson versus Texas. Battle of two orange teams. Rematch of last season's playoff. If Kate Klubnik, as my prediction states, wins the Heisman, I think that he's going to go off and go on a bit of a magical run. I like that matchup though, so I'm taking the horns. If that's what happens, I think Texas, like Myers said, has been knocking on the door for a minute, due for a national championship win, and I think gets a pretty, maybe not dominant, but gets like a reassuring, clear, obvious win against the Clemson Tigers in Miami. Yeah,
Miami. Man, we've
that'll
come a
be
long
fun.
way. Predicting that.
That's wild. The fact that two of us have Texas winning the national championship. And we're not. I mean, we're homers, obviously, but we're not.
Obviously,
we're realistic.
Vegas
Yeah.
Hey, but we're not saying this in 2018 though. Like we couldn't be saying this with a straight
hell
face.
no.
You know what I mean?
No. We
So
would
now
never.
you could say it and be like, I believe it.
It's like can we make the playoff?
Yeah.
Can we win the
sniff a
conference? Right?
championship? Yeah.
Yeah. So we've come a long way. But like I said, Texas fans, y'all enjoy this season. It's going to be a fun one. If it meets the expectations that we have, which hopefully it does. But thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate it. We're going to try to do these somewhat consistently throughout the season, so we appreciate you guys tuning along and following us all these years. And if you're new here, welcome. Catch us when we're on. And thank you for the support. Horns up. Hopefully Texas gets this win in Columbus. And we will catch you in the next video. Welcome.